Um,
Okay, so we're
today's
live.
lesson is about the hiring. Pardon me. Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to discuss on the topic the recruiting and the hiring, and there's a category of questions that we need to answer in order to cover up what we need to do today. Now, the first of all, it has been categorized into 5 parts, and we are to make sure we do a few of the questions so we can cover most of the things that we need to know. Now, the first part is asking us about who to hire. Now, we read from the script of all these things that we need to do. So we were asking that after we have read I think we learn of SG Cromwell new recruits, and that one is asking us about these 4 candidates that were chosen to be given the work. So we were asked which 2 of those candidates, that 4 candidates, can we hire if we were to be the managers of the company. Do you get me? Now there is 4 candidates. After everything, they got 4 candidates. And those candidates, we are to hire 2 of them. Okay. Which ones do you want to hire?
Should we decide which 2?
Out of the 4, do you get me?
We have to decide which 2 candidates we would hire.
Yes, out of the 4, that is, we have Nataya and Mountain Streets. We have Ken, and we have Andy Sanchez. If these 4 of them, these 4 candidates, and we are to hire 2 out of the 4. So I'm asking Benjamin, which 2 are you going to hire if you are to be the CEO of the banking company?
I'm looking at them right now. Let me see.
I felt like there were so many good things about all of them, but each one of them had something that was really like, I don't know, this may not work. So I was really happy when I was looking at this. I thought that Natalia and Ken were both my top choices.
Oh, great.
But even
they had so Benji, which one do you also hire? The 2 of them that we're going to hire.
It's funny. It's good that we have a group so we can all have a discussion. I kind of liked Martin and Andy better.
Oh, really? That's funny.
And we all have different perspectives too. So I thought Martin had a real focus on success, and I thought Andy had the experience, or had already gone through a lot of the methods to get that that success. But I kind of want.
That is good.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was more information to go off
of. Oh, okay. So you pick Andy and Ken, eh?
Andy and Martin.
Okay, Andy and Martin. All right, all right, all right. I was also looking at the last two, the Andy and the Ken. In fact, all the four are very, very impressive. But I wish I can get the Ken and Andy for their various capacities that they have served. In fact, Andy was creating his own business. And you can see the way Amana he was able to manage his business, even when he was in school. He was doing all that he can to manage and look at the number of profits that he actually got. And I came to, he had a wonderful experience about being manager in order. So it's okay. So the next one, the next question is we have already voted for the two people who we feel we can hire. So as it said that, what are we to justify for? The two that we've been taking, what do we have to justify? I think,
so why am I justifying my two?
Okay. They explain our reasoning. Yeah.
Yeah. So my choice was Natalia, and I think that her biggest downfall was her language skills, just not being able to be understood as well. That would seem to be the hesitation. So that for me, that wasn't a big deal. I felt like that's something you can work around and can make work. Yeah, it says most of our clients think Wall Street types speak too fast anyway. So I kind of felt like I agree with that it would slow people down a little bit and make them listen to her. And then I also picked Ken. His kind of downfall, the thing that kind of held him back, was he had a family, a young family, and I felt like that could be a burden, but didn't have to be. So that's why I picked those two. I feel like they were the best candidates, and their downfalls weren't anything that couldn't be fixed or worked with.
That's interesting. So Benji, do you have anything to justify for those two that you picked?
Yeah. Again, I think it's interesting because what was just said kind of before is kind of talking about the interpersonal kind of reasoning, and that's good. That's very good. My outlook was more on who are these people going forward and how are they going to work together. So with Martin, he was really focused on getting the cream of the crop and having that success. And I thought that was really valuable because the company has been having to lay off a lot of people. So that's kind of, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum that we would think of with HR. But also there was Andy, and he was used to, or had experience with companies growing and knowing where to place people, even if they were kind of good, better, best. At least that's what I understood from reading his description. So having those two very different, what's it called? Diversity or intelligences, I thought was a good idea.
Great. So we are to go through the four candidates, and we have to discuss why the people on their team would or will not hire them. You see, they can't hire the whole four. So as we have gone through the exercise, we might feel that just as we pick the two that we want to work with, so it's like why we are not picking the other two, and why we are picking the other two.
Right. So again, justifying why we like two and not the other two. My feeling on that was not that I didn't like the other two. Just reading through, I mean, it's 3 paragraphs. You can't really get to know a person, but just reading through the paragraph about Just reading through the paragraph about Andy, I felt like he was a little bit over the top. Like he just was like, he sent emails and he called and he went into the office, and I was like, meh. Something about that kind of bothered me. And then for Martin, the thing about him that kind of bothered me was that they didn't have any information about his grades. He was recruiting with other firms. Like he seemed a little more sketchy as far as not being fully committed to that interview process. So those were my only. I mean, and those are nitpicky things. They're not bad.
Good. Good. So, Benji, will you also share with us a few things that are going to be justified? Why are you picking those two?
I thought we were kind of talking about the 2 candidates we wouldn't choose or didn't choose. If that's the case with, I don't even know how to say her name. Gold.
I think it's Natalia.
Natalia Gold Whiskey. But
Natalia.
Yeah. They talked about how there was a language barrier, and I guess I have to take their word. I too think that can be worked around, but they seem to think it was a problem. Trying to, and I had the same kind of idea. It's like I think they all could work.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a better fit with them working together or just working with the company.
Mm-hmm.
It says she seems stiff or uncomfortable during small talk, which, I mean, again, that doesn't or shouldn't have affect work very much. But if she's an HR leader, she has to take that initiative and kind of break out of her shell. And if she's not doing that, I think it could be a big issue. And Ken seemed like a great guy. It said that it seemed like he breaks promises to kids, and I don't know if that's a big indication. But if I was to critique him, I'd be, I don't know. You can't bring that up.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was one of the interviewers that said, "I commend him for trying, but I break promises to my kids all the time." So he was like, yeah, he was saying he just didn't think that it would work because he had these 2 little kids he was going to have to break promises to just to have this position. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was also trying to figure out in such a way that maybe in the course of working to the other end of the company, because of his hardworking capacity, he don't even have time for the family. And maybe if he proposed that I will come home early so I can take you to this side. In fact, because of the work, he might not be able to fulfill that promises. And I think, that is more reason why, for me, I may not pick him. And Natalia, she was also described as very stiff, and somehow he was not flexible at the cocktail. So they were also having concern that she might not be able to mingle well with other people, other staff members. So for the 2, Ken and Andy, I think they actually warm my heart. The way and manner they were forceful in wherever they were. And I think getting to the downside of the Andy's interview, he was asked, so after employing you, what will happen to your business? He said that I'm going to hand over the business to my brother. So this tells you that he's always want to encourage himself. He will always want to do something to motivate himself. And I think it's powerful. For me, I think the way Amana he has done his own work, if the chance is given to him, he can also perform. So thank you very much. Now, is there any information that we can, maybe apart from what we learn, apart from what we read, is there any necessary information that we can get from outside the box so we can bring it to justify what we are doing? Is there anything, any other information we can include over here?
Well, I think just a couple paragraphs from each person is not enough information to decide on. So those in-person interviews, I'm sure they were following through with questions and things like that to get a better feel of the candidates. I don't know what I would ask for specifically that I don't already know, but that one-on-one time might just sell me over somebody than somebody else just because of some kind of a connection in person. It's the only thing I can think of is maybe a personal connection.
Right. Okay, so I think Benjamin, do you have anything to add? Maybe if in your own personal life, maybe you have been you have gone to interview and you know a few things about what we are doing. That is the additional information they want us to add. Maybe from this four, if we have any other additional information.
Yeah. So a big part of our reading is race strategy, and it did kind of impact my decisions. It talked about how the company tried always, or at least most of the time, picked the top of the class or the cream of the crop, kind of. And it said they tended to be more loyal, and I thought that was interesting, and I guess that might that might reflect badly on my choice of who was that? I think it was Andres, but I thought that was an interesting thought. The people who have already kind of proven themselves in one way or another show that they can really put in the diligent effort and sacrifice themselves for something that really matters. And I thought that was a good thought. I thought that stood out.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're moving to the second part of the whole thing. We are going to use that 10 to 15 minutes for the question is that why is it that so much disagreements between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire? There were a little agreement over there with among the seniors. I mean, talking about what type of recruitment they have to make. We were asking why this agreement came about.
It says in our reading that all of them thought that it would be easy to pick candidates, but then they realized that they saw differences in the candidates according to their own personal feelings. It says one managing director might be turned off by a candidate for being too salesy. The same candidate may have appealed to another director for having a great attitude and eager to contribute, which is why I felt like I think it was the last one, Andy. Well, I felt like he and I would not click. I just felt like he was a little over to the top, and I didn't love that about him. So much of this hiring comes down to the personal thoughts, feelings, ideas, the connections between the interviewer and the interviewee. And when you put all those people in a room together and say, okay, now pick somebody, they're all going to pick somebody else, somebody different.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. Is there anything, Benjamin?
I'm not sure if I understood the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was a little misunderstanding between the seniors who actually going to do the interview, and why that this misunderstanding between them, and that is what Tammy actually explained her part of the.
Oh yeah.
Do you still? There was a little misunderstanding among them. Can you figure out how this came about?
I wasn't sure if there was anything specifically in the case. It talks about how with choosing candidates, they had clear yeses and nos. So they had strong opinions about some things. I think I can't personally get an accurate feel of the company from this really short reading, but I think that's what it comes down to. I think there's a company culture, and then there's everybody's perception of that culture, which that was a good point that y'all just made. That we're trying to, build the culture that we see or we think that works. So sometimes we have to work together and make compromises or work things out because we have different diversity or intelligence that perceives different things. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I think that it's interesting that when you do an interview, there's different ways to ask questions. There's different different ways to focus on the interview. And if everybody doesn't do the same interview the same way, they're going to get a different feel from the candidate of whether or not they'll fit the position. And so I think that that comes into play when you're interviewing so many people and so many people are interviewing all of those people. So I think that that is probably why there's so much disagreement between the senior bankers when they're doing that lunch meeting and trying to figure out who to
hire. Yeah, it's very, very true, because I think it boils down to where the seniors met together. Certain situations, you feel that all of us want to show that we are there, and the number of maybe how each and every one will do his or her interview. I think just as he said, it will differ from there, even though we are following the same questionnaires, but it looks as if one way or the other, some other people might have even asked a follow-up questions, which might be different from exactly what another person will say. But I'm not sure whether they have certain people in there that they themselves want to interview. Maybe they have a brother or a friend or something inside that I want to interview that my brother, or you want to interview. So it can bring a whole lot of among us. It's just like our favorites. We wanted to take our favorites. I want to interview this one. You said no, I will interview this one. That one alone can even bring misunderstanding between those who are going to take the interview. So I think it's something that we have to be cautious of. Thank you very much. We learn of using this. Is it partly because of the interview process? That is the question that they were trying to explain where our questions need to be. Is it partly because of the interview process? Is it partly because of the types of interview? Might there be better way to learn about the candidates than traditional interview? What else might they try? Now, just as we were saying, it's partly interview process that brought about that argument, and partly because of the types of the interview that we have to be giving to those guys. And the one question here says that, have applicants demonstrate the ability to do certain job tasks? That is, what else might they try? The answers might be that, have an applicant demonstrate the ability to do certain job tasks. So as you are interviewer, you ask a candidate to actually perform a certain job task. So I don't know if we can imagine any job task that we put a play out of that. Do you get my question?
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure how you want the question answered. I think that we covered. I think we covered the idea that that the different interview types by all the different interviewees makes it hard to have a formula for hiring. So
yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If you were kind of talking about jobs, I mean, I guess every single job, you know, an HR leader might be responsible for, and you know, in hiring for that position, he or she is going to have different criteria. You know, I mean, even within the same company, who has a different I mean, it might have the same culture and the same agenda, but so
well, this particular company doesn't even have a set criteria. They tried to come up with something, but they didn't have, you know, that they have to be this or they have to be that. It was more of a, you know, all these senior managers trying to decide what they liked and then coming together to make a choice from all those candidates. And that's hard to do. It's hard to have 15 people decide that one guy is right for the job if they're all doing it differently. And if there's no criteria to go by.
Yeah, these are very successful and very probably powerful people, and they probably have strong wills. So that makes it kind of tougher. You really need a CEO or you know, a board of directors that's giving them training or kind of an agenda that they all have to follow, so they kind of get in line.
Mm-hmm.
Or
well, and one of the things, sorry to interrupt, but one of the things that they talked about in the paper was that one person wanted a self-starter, somebody else wanted somebody who had started their own business, somebody else wanted you know, didn't want it to be regimented the way that they hired somebody. It should be more about how they felt fit right. There's just no set criteria.
That is interesting. It's very, very interesting, because just as you said, the whole thing is just like, after you've been interviewed them, they want us to, you know, take the whole interview outside that interview room, and maybe if we can ask them to know certain things about them apart from the job descriptions that we've made aware of, they also need to go a longer way to ask them what they can do. Now, a few of them here is how applicants demonstrate ability to do certain, and the other one says, have them spend a whole day with someone to see what the job is like, and have them to do internship and do interviews, but focus on behavioral questions like, tell me about a time when you disagree with your boss. What did you do? All these things you are trying to find out certain behavior, a certain attitude from the candidates. So if the person can be able to answer you with all these questions, it means coupled with their qualification and other things, I think they can be able to do the work in a program. And the last one is have the interviewer ask the same questions and evaluate applicant based on the same criteria. So it's just like within time, you even want the applicant to interview you, to ask you certain questions, so you may also know how best you can answer those questions. So what are the criteria for choosing candidates as at LG Cornwall? What is the criteria?
I don't think there is any criteria. I don't think that's what I was saying. I don't think there's a set criteria, which makes it hard to pick somebody.
But I think the reading is said hiring criteria here, and I think it's part of the managing director, that's the CEO, try to formalize the criteria by using grade sheets for the bankers to fill out,
right?
And having them vote and make a case on behalf of their candidates.
Yeah, that grid sheet is down at the very bottom. There's like an evaluation form. It's the last page in that. And it sounds like they didn't use it. It sounds like that's what they wanted them to do, but they didn't use it. So I feel like there's no criteria if they don't use that.
Yeah, maybe it was kind of all thrown out the door.
Yeah, it seems like what it seems like.
It seems like it.
Okay.
I had two thoughts when you were explaining. I don't know if you meant to, but you reminded me of Undercover Boss. I don't know if you've seen that show, but it's it was. I got that idea, and then that kind of led me to remember those presentation, all that reading, and those little slides and those like little 2-minute videos. I can't remember the name, but I think it said hiring was best if it was done by like the direct boss, somebody they directly work with and then they're accountable for. So you have that kind of chain of responsibility and accountability. And I don't know if that's being done here. Maybe that's one of the roots of the problem, that you have people who are really high up, in one division of the company, who are kind of getting to hire people who are over another aspect. So they really don't understand what needs to be done, in that kind of way. And maybe I'm completely off, but that idea came to me.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Interesting. So that is it. So how do the senior bankers know what they are supposed to be looking for in a candidate? How do they know about what they are supposing from in their candidates?
Well, I think because the criteria is not clear, they didn't know. They didn't have a set criteria to decide what they were supposed to look for. So they're going to look more for connections, for personal connections, for something that tells them that this person will work in the business. And then they have to either fight for that person when they go to the lunch meeting and say, no, this is the right person for it, or they have to realize that that connection may have been made with other people too, And since there's no set criteria, then it comes down to a personality contest and who can talk up their candidate the most.
Yeah. So this one means that it's also part of the reason why they were doing that disagreement over there, because there was nothing to follow.
Yeah.
And probably they can choose any candidate that individual interviewer feels that this one have performed very well.
Yeah.
So can this be improved?
Can it be improved?
Can this situation be improved?
Yeah, absolutely. They just need to come up with a criteria and they need to put it in place and check boxes, say yes or no to these things. I think there needs to be some room left for those personal connections so that you know if somebody's going to fit on the team. But yeah, it could be improved. It can be made easier if they had some kind of set criteria for the job.
Yeah, I agree. There needs to be some kind of accountability on their part, and we really don't know if they're having to work with these people they directly hire, and if they're part of their team in their division. That's, I think, would be important to have, because if they're not responsible for them or never see them again,
yeah.
It's like,
well, and how frustrating for the candidates as well to not know what boxes need to be checked. Are they actually going to be considered for a position because they don't know what their requirements are?
It's very, very interesting, because if you have to target a very powerful people to come and work for you, and there is no requirement, there is no criteria, and even if you have it, it's never clear, I don't think it will help in any way. And yeah, most of them will actually come and waste their time. Well, there is, even if it's actually going to base on your the appetite you have for which candidates that you want to fill. So it's not easy at all to do that. We are to learn from the school recruiting. The question says that deciding which business school to recruit at was controversial. Was there any school that to be decided in that? Was it any business school to be recruited that it was very controversial to do that?
Well, I think the controversy came because the guy doing the, if I remember right, I might be thinking of some. No, I think that's right. He was choosing from the bottom 15 of the top 25 schools. He was leaving the top 10 out because he felt like they weren't a big enough company to even go look there. The best people from those schools were going to go to the best companies, the bigger companies. And so they were going to get middle of the road people from those schools. So he chose to focus on those bottom 15 of the top 25, and he felt like they could get the top candidates from those schools instead of the middle of the road candidates from those schools. I think it's smart. I think it's a great way to do it. I think I would support that.
Okay, interesting. Because other than that, I don't think it matters which school that best produce the candidate that they need. Now, Benji, why was the choice of which schools to recruit at so important to SG Cromwell?
Why was the
choice
of those schools was very, very important to the SG company?
In the reading, I'm not sure if there was anything to lead that idea, but I think that reputation does have a big impact. I mean, for example, if you have a Harvard resume, in the U.S., like, I mean, maybe it's international too, but it makes a big difference, and it has social status. I think that is something, especially with them not really having a strong criteria, them kind of following their perceptions. I think maybe school does have a bigger impact, because if you don't have that criteria, how much easier is it to like stereotype somebody? I mean, they come from a school that has a certain stereotype or of certain people, and then it can get into all kinds of bias. Everything from religion, like it could be anything.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good question, but I don't see anything definite.
Interesting.
Sorry if I wasn't very helpful.
Thank you very much. So the name is RAES, RAES. That is the
Right.
president of the president. So the core school strategy, was it a good one or the bad one?
I support it. I thought it was good.
Wonderful.
The picking the best from the schools?
Mm-hmm. The best from the bottom 15 instead of the middle of the road from the top 10. I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah. Well, I do think it can be good. I would lead kind of that way. And I'm sorry if I'm always the voice of opposition.
No, it's all right. It doesn't bother me.
I think I know it's funny. I do think we have to kind of balance it. I think that kind of gets back to our last case with the people rowing. You kind of have to get a team that kind of works best together, and some people have different strengths and weaknesses. If you have a whole team of people who do one certain thing extremely well, and there's all kinds of different responsibilities, it's not going to work out very well. So no, I see your point, and it's good. I would try to pick the best from the best, but
yeah.
Okay, that's great. So does it in any way make sense for the company to recruit from the graduate program, like law or technology? It doesn't make sense.
I don't know why that would make sense. I don't feel like I have enough knowledge about that to decide whether or not a banking company, why it would make sense or why not to recruit from a law or technology school. It seems like smart people are smart people, so they could probably do it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I think they want to make reference to the president, the CEO. At first, he was in law.
Yeah.
And then, yes, he has shifted to the banking. So that is exactly what they are trying to draw our attention to. Does it make sense? Whilst you're in the banking system, you try to recruit from the law or technology. Do you have the idea that maybe someday they can also change to become the bankers that you want to work with, and probably to become the president of the? Benji, do you have any idea as to whether it makes sense to do that?
I'm not sure. The hiring from the technology schools sounds really interesting to me, because I don't know what kind of business we're having. Are we having one that focuses on investing or working with technology companies, or are we more technology based as a bank, like with international accounts?
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
I just don't know.
I don't know either.
This case, I mean, we don't like to, and it's more work, but if we would have had 5 times as much material, maybe we would know some of these details.
it's pretty complicated, I think, and all of these little ideas that, you know, I hadn't thought of that, what Benjamin said. If they have clients that are in the technology or in the, you know, attorneys or whatever in that kind of industry, then yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea at all. But you don't know.
Yes, in fact, I think it's a very gambling way of doing things. You might not know. So, but maybe if it's a law, it's within in a law school. I think the banking also deals with a lot with laws and maybe technology and other things. But it's supposed to be a banking background. I think that would be fine. But this, I don't know whether I can't just figure out if it makes sense to do it in that way. Meaning, maybe thinking that someday he might progress to become a big man in the banking industry. So I don't know, but I still have my doubts. I still have my doubt that that will happen. I think it will be just one among many, like the CEO, the president of the bank. I think it will be one out of many that will probably change to become the person that you want him to lead the bank.
Yeah, they're not going to focus. They're not going to focus their hiring practices on those industries, right? That one in a number of them would be okay. It's interesting.
Wonderful. Yes. So you said, what are the pros and cons of SG Commonwealth approach to recruiting on campus? The pros and cons.
Recruiting on what?
On the recruiting, approaching to the recruiting on campus.
What are the pros and cons of SG Cowan's approach to recruiting on campus is the question.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I've never been a part of that kind of the business world, so I don't know what the pros and cons would be. It seems like you're going to get people that are excited about the industry because they're graduating and they're ready to like start working, and so they're excited about that. I don't know. I'd have to think about it some more, but I don't know what the other pros or cons would be.
My only thought or input with this is if they're recruiting people and getting them into their program, like if they want them to become interns and work with them and incorporate them, or you know they just graduated and get them to have go to graduate school and then help them pay through. I mean, there's programs for some people, you know, certain, you know, engineering especially, and or if they want to go to masters. That's the only kind of, so you're more integrated and you kind of have that presence, so people, you know, want to work with you or for you, and then you can recruit them is my real only idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Actually, I'm trying to figure out, so how is it going to be? Like the whole school and your recruiters are there, and I don't think you can even have the quality that you need. And it's so what of sending them to your company site, or maybe going to the school? I can't just as you said, we've not been able to get in touch with all these things. So sometimes it's also very hard for you to understand.
Yeah.
So the next question that you're asking is that, are the associates the best people to send to the campus for recruiting? I mean, the big men in the.
Oh, you're broken up. You hear him, Benjamin?
No, I can't really.
Shoot. I'll give him a second.
Do you think he'll refresh or?
I don't know.
I was gonna say real quick, that's always a tough thing to balance. Going out and trying to find the people,
Mm-hmm.
or letting them find you and taking that effort.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to know how to balance or how to kind of, position yourself.
Yeah. I agree with you that a lot of these questions and a lot of just the information just answering the questions based on the information we've given is really difficult. This is not, I have no way of knowing these things. I didn't ever work in a business place like this, so it's hard for me.
Yeah, we're not given a lot of details, really.
Yeah.
I guess to answer his question, I mean, I guess I kind of already have. I guess I jumped the gun. I thought that maybe they can get referred or move along the process from these advisors or people hiring the candidates, but the person who directly hires them, I agree with what we studied in our material. I think it needs to be the direct boss, somebody they're going to work with and start building that relationship, and then they're accountable to them. If you have somebody who can hire somebody and then isn't accountable, with them or to them, I think that causes chaos.
Yeah. Well, shoot. I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
He's going question by question. We still have a few more to go, and we're out of time.
I know we are.
I'm surprised that the other ladies didn't show up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if it annoys y'all. I tried to send out an email earlier, kind of to remind everybody.
Right. No, I saw that.
I'm like, hey, everybody.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I knew it was up, but I get why you did.
Yeah, you do.
Fine, yeah. Yeah. Well, should we go ahead with some of the questions?
Oh, I don't have them pulled up. Have we answered? Let me see.
Well, we need to talk about Super Saturday. What are the objectives of Super Saturday? Do any of the objectives conflict with one another? What kind of information did the company gain from candidates during the process? Do you think there would be a better way to structure the on-campus interviewing and recruiting? And what are the pros and cons for the Super Saturday approach? I thought it was a lot. I thought when I read through that whole thing of what they do on Super Saturday with the dinner the night before and then the interviews like super fast and, people knocking on the door and saying, okay, your time's up and like all of that it's a lot. I think that there's probably better ways to interview, but if you're interviewing that many candidates and you need to get it done all at once, maybe there's not. I don't know.
Yeah, I see. I don't know what kind of steps they've taken to get to this point.
Right.
Have they already, gone through a process of approval of a couple like phone interviews or, screening through their applications? I don't know, but I would agree with you. I do think it seems rushed. I think we saw that a couple of times in our reading that they don't really give them enough time or they really don't have a fixed kind of time schedule. And then I don't know what's contributing to it, but it kind of seemed that everybody's kind of distracted, or maybe it's not really their priority. It's like even in the beginning of the paper, it's like they wanted to run off. And I understand with the bad weather, I don't know what it is. It could have been a snowstorm for all I know.
Right.
But it's, their priority really isn't set on that.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem so.
I think it goes back to also not having a set standard for who to hire. That makes that whole Super Saturday feel kind of pointless. Like, why are we doing all this interviewing if we don't even know what kind of person we want to hire? So I don't know that every single job needs to have a checklist where if they don't meet every single requirement, they're not a candidate, or if, you know, I don't know if it needs to be that formal, but I do think that they need to find a better way to narrow down their candidate search, so that when they do their Super Saturday, they're, you know, 5 candidates or something, or these 4 that they have, so that they can come up with 2, maybe spend more time with them and get to know them better, see if they're going to fit in the team, make sure that they've already checked all those boxes for the criteria. But yeah, it seemed like a kind of a crazy day. I'm not sure I would like being a candidate or an interviewer on a Super Saturday.
Yeah, that's, see, I completely agree with you. It's like if they were, you know, they were using methods maybe to filter out, you know, who they exactly needed, or somebody who matched their criteria better, then they would have fewer people. But
yeah. Well, and he did say that if he was going to try to fill 15 spots, he needed to interview 20 people. So I can see where, you know, having 15 openings, it's going to make for a crazy day, and there's really nothing you can do to get around it. But
yeah.
Oh, you're back. Hi, John.
And
We lost you for a minute.
And I don't know, maybe we were talking. I think we jumped to what question was that?
We're on part 4. We just talked about the Super Saturday for a few minutes while you were gone, so I think we're about ready to wrap up.
Okay. Yes, that is very, very true. So because I'm then using my tablet to link you up, so I can't just know the questions again. I was reading the questions from my tablet.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have them?
Yeah, I don't have the questions as I'm speaking.
I'll do it. The final wrap up is what's the difference between recruiting and hiring? I think there's a big difference. I think that when you're recruiting, you're looking at a whole bunch of different candidates and trying to decide. Hiring is picking one. So they're different processes. Anyone else?
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Yeah, when I don't know if it's the right way to look at it, but when I look at recruiting, I think of like a smaller list of very stringent or like strict criteria. Like let's say the military, like you're able to perform physically in these certain ways, and you know have and do these certain things, and that's all we need you for. I mean,
yeah.
I love the military and all, but but you know
they have very strict guidelines.
That's what gets you in the door. But
that's right. Yeah.
If you're doing a different job with a business, especially in a leadership role, there's so many different aspects and responsibilities you might have, and so many different skills you might need.
So next, what did you learn from this case about hiring and recruiting? So I think we've covered that. We talked about that. Anything to add?
I covered. It's always like, just as we have earlier discussed, it's always like we need to be mindful of whoever we're going to hire, because at the moment, a little that we have learned, we even learned that hire them and you did not cope with them to that extent, you can even send to court, and maybe they will charge you for any other aid. So for hiring, as I think we need to follow the criteria, but unfortunately, this one they don't have that one to follow up, and when it comes to that, it's not too easy for individual to be picking those persons. I think it's very, very, very good if and only we can get the right people to be hired.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Benjamin, you have anything to add to that? What did you learn from this case about hiring and recruiting?
Oh, in closing?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
say that I thought their kind of hiring day was kind of interesting. I've never heard of, somebody doing that.
Yeah.
I think I learned from the case and this week that you really need, like we've talked about with criteria, but
Yeah.
I think we have to focus on what the company needs and have those guidelines and have people, have the culture in mind, even to the aspect of the details, because if you hire somebody who is even really qualified and might be a great fit for the company, if you put them in factory A, they might be a better fit for factory B. So
Yeah. That was my
because
takeaway as well. Yeah, definitely my takeaway as well. Just having that criteria more solid.
yeah,
Um,
the little details.
yeah. It says, ask each team member to rate the overall quality of today's discussion from 0 to 10. I'm going to do a 9, and only because we're missing some of our people. Nothing about the quality of actually what we did. I thought it was all a 10, but I just miss having the rest of our people.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened?
I don't know.
Were we supposed to rate like every meeting?
Yep.
Oh.
I don't know. This one has it in the final wrap up.
Yeah, but this one, they don't want us to rate ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like last
then,
week
They want
we rated ourselves, but I didn't know we're supposed to rate each meeting.
So Benjamin, what is your rating for the overall quality of today's discussion?
I think it was great. I'd give it a 9 too.
Good.
I do. I wish the other people were here. Maybe we would have learned from them,
Yeah.
or they learned from us, all that.
Okay. I'll also take 9 because if not this, my internet that just went away like that, I wouldn't have even, the line wouldn't have contact off. I still
That's not
haven't.
you. That's the
That wasn't
technology.
you, yeah. All right. And then the next question is, what did the discussion leader do that we liked? And I think, John, you're great. I thought you were very well prepared, and that makes me happy because I hate wasting time. So I feel like we did it. We used up all of our time, and we did it well. So you did a great job.
Thank you very much. So who is going to take the next week?
Well, we've all taken a turn, right?
Yeah, we've all done it.
It's either Angela or Shelley.
I think it needs to be one of them, so we don't have one of us that's done it twice and they haven't done it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send out an email with this link, so that John has it to post. Right, John, you know that you need to post to our discussion board and something else, right? The link. Anyway, I'll email it to you so you have it, and I'll let Angela or Shelley know that they need to volunteer for next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's that leadership assignment that you have to do, John, this week.
So are you going to take the video to the discussion group for me?
I'll send you the link so you can do it.
Yeah, the discussion board, yeah.
And a few comments about what we did, because I'm not sure my internet can help me get there. Maybe tomorrow morning. It's getting to 11 p.m. now. So until maybe morning.
You want me to post the link and then you can just post, because it might take more of your internet connection to post the link. I can post the link and then you could post the, well, it shouldn't. You can post the question answers.
Okay. All right. I think we have done well today. We have done well today too.
Sorry?
I think we have done wonderful work today too.
Oh yeah.
And I hope we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, we'll keep it up.
Until then, we'll see you next week.
Yes, next
Yeah.
week. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.